I just want to say thank you, everybody, first for coming here this afternoon, evening. My name is Robert Henry, or Bobby, as most people in here know me, and I found out that there's people in here that know me since I was here now, so now I got to be even on my best behavior. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Indigenous Studies here at University of Saskatchewan. I'm Métis from Prince Albert, citizen of the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan. For the academic sort of spaces and everything else, I hold a Canada Research Chair in Indigenous Justice and Wellbeing. As well, with that little piece, I am the NPI for the Saskatchewan Network Environments of Indigenous Health Research located here at the University of Saskatchewan. Within this work, I also am the lead somehow. I don't know how that works, but it works this way. Of the National Coordinating Center for all the NEIHRs, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in the future. I also lead the Indigenous Engagement Platform for the Canadian Research Initiative in Substance Misuse. And a lot of my research focuses in and around working with communities involved in street lifestyles through community engaged work, arts-based research, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But more than anything else, I just like talking and gabbing. I'm not very good at anything else that I do, but that's good. That's where we learn. We learn by our mistakes, and I make a lot. And you're going to hear them tonight as we go through this, because Fleur has done an amazing job putting my notes together. And Dr. Chelsea Gable, who you'll meet in a little bit, also knows that I'm not good with notes. And so this is where it's gonna have fun. We're going to have some fun here tonight. So one of the things I do want to do, and this is really, it's a historic day, actually. Within an academic sense, not outside. We, as academics, we love to pat ourselves on the back for doing something innovative and for the first time. So this is the first time that 2 scientific directors and 2 IABs and Institute of Advisory Boards have come together. So CIHR, for those who are unfamiliar, is the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. And within here, there's 13 different institutes. And out of this is the first time that these institutes have decided that, wow, maybe we need to start working together across our advisory boards to understand how to do collaboration, work together, and so forth. So this is where Dr. Chambers and Dr. Gable decided to host their IAB meetings here. And this is where this event started to come from. So it is the first time that this has happened. I am teasing because I am nervous. It's the easiest way to get around things. So it's all good. That's the way I look at it. What I want to do is I also want to recognize their staff. So if their staff can put up their hands, and I know they're going to recognize them again, but can the staff from ITSI, and I was told to remember this as Itsy Spider, that's the best way to understand their acronym, and IIPH, if you could just stand up real quick so people can see you in the room. So I want to just say thank you to all of you. A lot of time and effort went into that to bring these 2 boards together. However, there's been another organization that's been far more superior and greater than those 2 boards. I'm just teasing. The CIHR. And I would love to see the CIHR people please stand up here so we can congratulate you. So, and I just wanted to separate the 2 just so you understand that the CIHR, we're here at the University of Saskatchewan. We are also at the University of Regina and First Nations University. We are the network here in this province that are trying to engage in mentorship training, knowledge mobilization, and Indigenous health research. These are the faces you see on the day-to-day basis. If you see any activities going on, it's them. It's not the PIs. We just kind of sit there and take the glory in the end, but they're the ones in the backbone doing all the work, making sure everything is moving forward in a good way. So I really want to recognize these people for the amazing work that they do day to day, working with grad students, working with researchers, working with communities, and so forth. And I also want to recognize, for those in the room, the NEIHR program. There's a long history and everything else, but if it wasn't for people like Dr. Chambers, Tammy Clifford, because Chelsea came afterwards because she's just finishing her first year, who advocated to get the program back running again, we wouldn't be here. So I do want to recognize that. The NEIHR program nationally is the only program within CIHR that's funded by all 13 institutes, and we are working as closely as possible with them to make sure that we advance Indigenous health research, not just locally here in Saskatchewan or provincially or regionally within the prairies, but nationally. And I also want to recognize that through this work, we are recognized internationally as the cutting edge of what Indigenous health research networks are. And this is something hard for us to do on the prairies. We don't like taking gratitude for what we do, but I like it. It feeds my ego, and my ego isn't big enough yet. So, but we can't do this without you. And we can't have this room full without you in here. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming here, especially today, to listen to what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to go over a couple of logistics. One, we're going to have some talks here from some NEIHR researchers who will talk about their research and their program so you have a better understanding of what we're trying to do. We're also going to hear from the scientific directors as well as some gratitudes from the University of Saskatchewan and Tammy Clifford from CIHR. Then after we do this little bit, from 6 to 7:30, we are going to have food. I know why the grad students are here, okay? It's free food. It's all going to be there. You feed as much as you can. If there's leftovers, make sure you pack it up. Go to your dorms, go home, wherever you're at. Make sure all the food is gone at the end. And then 7:30. But really what I hope afterwards when we have food and everything else from, at least in my family, how we do things, that's where most of the great conversations begin to happen. When you're stuffing your face and you got potatoes going down the side of your lips and everything else, you're laughing, you're teasing, but you're beginning to converse and you're building a relationship. And that's what we want to do with this, is we want to build a relationship. We want to strengthen what we have going on in here. We want to strengthen the relationships that we have at the University of Saskatchewan, Sask Polytechnic, First Nations University, University of Regina, and beyond. This is the goal and the intent of what we believe in, and it's how we want to continue to move forward. So with that, I would like to invite Terry Gardner, my friend, my compadre. I don't know, what else are we going to say while you're coming up here and we embarrass you? Traveling partner, knowledge keeper, person who keeps me humble, everything else. So I'll give Terry to give an opening here. So thank you. Oh, I forgot. Terry's the knowledge keeper for the SAS NEIHR. So, yes.
I'll talk really fast. I only have 5 minutes, I was told. When I first got involved, Dr. Tate invited me to a meeting. I knew nothing about researchers. I've never heard of them. And it was 2014, I think she invited me. And all these people sitting around the table, a lot of them are blonde and blue eyes, and I didn't know they were Métis. So they kept talking about PI. I thought, I'm going to ask. This might be a stupid question. So I put my hand up, I asked them. I thought it meant pretty Indian. When I was sitting down, the CEO from SHRF come beside me and said, "You again?" He was at the same party with Dr. Shahab and I. So anyways, I said, "Can I sit beside you?" He said, I said, "Sure, you have money, sit beside me." So I'm going to say, let's all enjoy ourselves and get to meet each other. And it's such a beautiful community where we are. And let's keep it going from today. It was really nice. I really enjoyed the day. And I'm going to say a special prayer for all of us to always work in a good way. Every one of us to learn from each other, to help each other, and help our children who are really important. Ano su takagi sigak kamama wapia. Koyes tamagi imnan. Iko tamak sitjagat hindi sunan nanak. Tak toch pinsuya tamioya tamama watuskia. Wahkuhtuni na koyes tapmtsahama. Tasagi hituya. Mayoya unina wugekaga tuskata ko mayoya une. Yagumina mantui jinan tasokga pauya. Tamiohta makakiugi koy. Ei minä isim johtaa tsegoogimiik ustegoanoa vitamio mamtoni tahko tavitsaa tseknihiawa nitsinihiawa igigahketamaksiaate kanihti katiitsik minanke mantuukene minaktemaagiimik ikse hai
Thank you for that, Terry. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Fanny Adapa, Director of Research Acceleration and Strategic Initiatives, Office of the VP Research here at the University of Saskatchewan.
Good afternoon. What a great day to have this meeting, especially the frost outside, not the cold, the beautiful trees, shrubs, and grass. And this reminds me what a beautiful place to live, work, and raise a family. I'm very thankful to that. And today, I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Dr. Baljit Singh, Vice President Research, University of Saskatchewan, and also the Office of Vice President Research. Unfortunately, he's traveling, he's abroad. He couldn't be here in person, but he sends his greetings to everyone. I'd also like to welcome all of our community partners and colleagues from peer academic institutions, Canadian Institute for Health Research, and Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation to our University of Saskatchewan campus. And University of Saskatchewan is very proud to be home to the Saskatchewan NEIHR and the NEIHR Canadian Coordinating Center. So many of our researchers are part of Saskatchewan NEIHR, and they're pursuing scientifically excellent Indigenous center research, so we are very proud of that. As evidenced by today's gathering, the Saskatchewan NEIHR is facilitating incredible research in First Nation and Métis-focused health research, training, and knowledge mobilization, and throughout the province. And we are very proud to be part of this journey. And I'm looking forward to the panel discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Fanny. Next, I would like to introduce Pat Odnicon, the CEO from Saskatchewan Health Research Foundation. I didn't introduce much about this, but I do want to recognize SHRF and all the work that they do in this province with health research. A lot of the researchers who I've worked with have gotten SHRFs. Like, notice how I said the researchers I work with, not me, have gotten SHRFs, but they push a lot of it, and we're working on collaborating more with SHRF on how do we work across our community partnership grants and supporting each other in all of this. So with that, bring it back. Thanks.
I'm nervous. This coming after my new best friend, Terry. So no matter what anybody says, she's my new best friend. I could go around and just say welcome to so many faces in the crowd. Christine, haven't seen you for a while. Tammy, thank you for coming. Chelsea, I thought you were somebody else and I was saying hello to you, so apologies. And Caroline, it's not always about you. I just have to say that. You know, we have, she's going to be mad at me, but our last year's Achievement Award winner, Dr. Colleen Dell here. There's, yeah, give her, yeah, absolutely. Christina Weiss with Skipper, like some of our partners. So there's so many people in the room that I'm going to be over 3 minutes if I don't start talking here, so apologies. So at SHRF, we continue to explore how research can be shaped and shared in ways that are informed by Indigenous communities. And I want to spotlight two opportunities or two things that we do. Our Truth in Action program reflects this approach. It supports work that combines Indigenous ways of knowing with research in ways that are useful to communities, and that is key. It's about the community. We see similar approaches with our Solutions Child and Youth Health program. So Christina, you were out last year to kickstart this. We funded some awesome projects, and we're going to start seeing impact pretty soon, which is really cool. And this is when young people, families, community partners work together, and the resulting ideas that are more grounded in real experiences and lead to clear paths for improving care. Events like this showcase how we can come together with common purpose. Each of us brings something unique, and those connections strengthen the work ahead. I think I'm under 3 minutes. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. If you want to hear more about SHRF and some of the programs and stuff, Chelsea and Karen are here. They're the keepers of all the knowledge SHRF-wise anyway. So thank you very much.
Almost on time. Great. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Tammy Clifford, Vice President, Research Learning Health Systems, CIHR.
Great. So as Bobby just mentioned, I'm Tammy Clifford, one of the Vice Presidents of Research at CIHR, and I'm very, very grateful to be here with you for this conversation tonight. Like Patrick preceding me, I'm going to take this opportunity to reaffirm CIHR's commitment to the Network Environments for Indigenous Health Research, or NEIHR's program, and to acknowledge again the value of conversations like we've had today. We are committed to working alongside Indigenous communities to strengthen our efforts to advance Indigenous health research in Canada, while recognizing the unique rights, needs, and perspectives of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. This includes removing barriers, such as the many administrative barriers that we know have existed to research, as well as ensuring that our processes are culturally safe and supportive. Hearing your perspectives, and I've emphasized earlier today that I'm a listener, more so than a talker, but hearing your perspectives helps guide future decisions and directions for research funding, informs our understanding, and strengthens the knowledge so that we can translate that into better health outcomes for Indigenous peoples, children, youth, and their families. Thank you again, and Bobby, I think this gives you back a minute or so. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
I'm getting my steps in. This is great. I think some people get the joke, other people don't get the joke. It's all whatever, it's fine. With that, I'd like to invite Dr. Chelsea Gable, Scientific Director, CIHR Institute of Indigenous Peoples Health, to come up here to give a few words. Do you want me to tease her while she's coming up? No? Oh. We figured we aged ourselves today. So I'll talk about it later.
It's like, stop it. Gosh. Anyway, well, it's so nice to be here. These are my favorite kinds of events. I feel, I've been in this role for just over a year now. And, these are the events that are just fun. It's so nice to make fun of each other and laugh. And so it's really lovely to be here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chelsea Gable. I am Red River Métis. I'm originally from Rivers, Manitoba. I'm a citizen of the Manitoba Métis Federation. I'm a professor in the Department of Health, Aging, and Society and the Indigenous Studies Department at McMaster University. I don't know what else I feel like that's all I'm going to say about my academic situation. I started my role as a scientific director with the Institute of Indigenous Peoples Health just about a year ago, so October 1st, 2024. After, I guess it was about I don't know the exact, about 2.5 years probably without a scientific director. So there's been many rewarding opportunities, but also, lots of challenges too. But I very much am enjoying my role. I love, as I said, coming together in these types of spaces. I love going across the country and meeting with people and talking with people. It's really inspirational to hear, all of the work that you're all doing, and that makes this job very worthwhile. So Bobby provided a little bit of context about CIHR. I always like to just give a little bit of background. I also am still very new to CIHR, and being on sort of the outside, applying for CIHR funding is very different than being in CIHR. And so Bobby explained it kind of okay. But CIHR is essentially, as I said, made up of 13 institutes, and each has a different focus. So there's like diabetes and cancer and aging, infection and immunity, gender, health services and policy. That would have been my second choice. So that's the one I would like to maybe in the future. Mental health and addictions, circulatory and respiratory health, arthritis, public and population health, mental health and addictions, and of course, child and youth health. And the institute, my institute, or this institute, is unique among them, right? Because we're not focused necessarily on a specific health area, and I feel like that's kind of one of my challenges. I sometimes feel like I'm going into these meetings where suddenly I'm an expert in diabetes or, arthritis, but really our institute crosses all of the institutes, which is great, but also extremely challenging. And IAPH was actually the world's first national institute dedicated specifically to Indigenous health, which is something actually that I'm really proud of and really want us to keep building on. And I think we can really do this through the NEIHR networks. So I know Bobby's going to talk a little bit more, and you've kind of been talking about the NEIHRs, and we have so many beautiful photos of our national gathering of graduate students and other events. But I really consider the NEIHR network as my flagship program. The NEIHR program was launched in 2007, and that's when I started. When I said 18 years, I had to literally count on my finger. I was like, 18 years, what? And that was launched by our very first scientific director, Dr. Jeff Redding, and he really started these networks. There are 10 networks across the country in BC, in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Atlantic Canada, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and soon to be the Yukon, plus the National Coordinating Center. So I used to co-lead that center with Bobby, and it's so instrumental in really coordinating all 10 networks across the country, and we work very closely together just to ensure that we're all communicating. And I love being able to work with you and all of the NEIHR PIs, and I really feel this year we've really come together in ways that we haven't been able to in the past. So it's really wonderful. I wanted to send a special shout out to Christine. It's been really an honor, really, to work with Christine, who's the scientific director of the Institute of Human Development, Child and Youth Health, ITSE. I've had now a chance to get to know Christine. Christine has been such an advocate and such a huge support and ally when it comes to Indigenous health. And Tammy, you as well. I feel really grateful for the support, especially stepping into a role that has come with a very tumultuous past. So I really appreciate just the support from you, Christine, and from our teams, and from really all of the scientific directors. It has not been an easy role to step into, but I'm very appreciative of just all of your support and advocacy, and it's just been really wonderful to do this together. So I think I'm probably past my, right? Yes, he's like, it's now not me for once, it's you that's past the 3 minutes. So I think I just really want to say thank you. I also want to acknowledge, there's some photos here of our national gathering of graduate students. It was literally one of the best things as a graduate student, as to be able to attend these national gathering of graduate students every year. They truly changed my life. And I can certainly see, listening to our students this afternoon, like, you can be up here one day too. I never in a million years imagined that I would be in this position. And so I want to where's Sheila? Sheila Netauhau, where are you? We were talking, there you are, can you stand up? So every year, we give scientific directors awards of excellence, and I never, ever got one, ever. Bobby did. And I never got one. But it's such an amazing pleasure now, for me as a scientific director, to be able to award to our students who are doing just the most incredible work. So we're so proud of you, and so proud of the Saskatchewan NEIHR. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and just all the amazing work that you're doing. Yeah. So thanks very much, and really looking forward to tonight. Thank you.
Chelsea forgot Sheila won the Masters Award, just so everybody is, what? It's all good. It was amazing. It was way better. Sheila would rather have it from you than from me, so it's all good. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Christine Chambers, Scientific Director for the Institute of Human Development, Child, Youth, Health.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Bobby. Just want to say what an incredible privilege it is to be here this evening, having spent a really thought-provoking day together, bringing our Institute advisory boards together for important conversations about the intersection between our Institute mandate and human development, child and youth health, and Indigenous people's health. Want to acknowledge both of our IABs. Our Institute advisory board members are individuals who apply from their respective communities, research areas, and our IABs consist of individuals really across the country, different career stages. Part of what we like to do when we have our meeting is to not just stay in a hotel and meet, but to actually engage with the community and learn. And this is just an incredible gathering of individuals here locally and from community organizations. So really want to thank NEIHR and the University of Saskatchewan for hosting us and being able to connect with so many of you. I also want to acknowledge that ITSE has a youth advisory council that we introduced in 2020, where we bring the youth voice directly into CIHR to provide youth perspective on important decisions. And this youth advisory, and we have two members with us here this evening, Finn and Tuluwani, who they've become a real trusted resource for our organization. CIHR president was just meeting with them 2 Saturdays ago. But also across government and to various partner organizations as well. Some of the themes for me today really have been around connection, collaboration, raising awareness and understanding. And so I'm really looking forward to the panel discussion this evening and bringing research to life. And I was commenting that, we have supported the NEIHRs, but I truly didn't really understand the scope and extent of their activities and their work until the last year. And now it's my turn to give a shout out to Chelsea, who has been absolutely phenomenal in her role over the last year, created so many opportunities for learning and connection, not just for me, but for all of the institutes and for our leaders within CIHR as well. So Chelsea, thank you. You have our full support. You know that. All of us other 12 scientific directors, and we're grateful to you for helping us to learn and helping us to know the right way forward. So thank you all, and again, really grateful to be here.
Thank you, Christine. Can we get the other PowerPoint set up there? Perfect. So I'm going to do a quick little talk about the NEIHR. While I'm doing that, I'd really like the panelists to slowly make their way up here, get their water or whatever they want. No wine, that's what I was told, until after. Not even allowed to sip on it until then. So while they're getting ready, I'm just going to give a quick overview here of the NEIHR for those who may or may not be aware of everything that we are doing or what it is. So again, as was stated, the NEIHR networks, this is a national network across, and it's funded by CIHR, focusing on Indigenous-led research, training, knowledge mobilization. Within self-determination and community-engaged work, there are, it says up here 100.8 million. However, we were able to up that to around about 105, 107 million this past one. With the NCC, I'm working to, and I'm going to put it out here right now, I'm actually working on it for the next iteration, that we move it up another $1 million a year minimum to $2 million, where each NEIHR can get up to that to actually work with our communities properly due to inflation and travel and everything else that's happening and everything that's going on. We do have one more iteration that is coming through here. Is Dr. Veronica McKinney here? Hey, make your way up here, you. Yeah. You're not getting out of this that fast. Yeah, you're trying to hide. For those, real quick, as Dr. Gable was saying, we have 9 NEIHRs plus the National Coordinating Center, soon to be 10 with the Yukon. These are the individuals who are leading them. For those of you who are familiar with Indigenous health research, you will see individuals such as Etsy, Suzanne Stewart, and Trina, Debbie Martin, These are individuals, well, I'll go with Essie. I say there's kind of layers when we look at the NEIHR network. There's the OGs, gang work coming in here. Individuals, these are the individuals who paved the way for us. These are the individuals who put forth, pushed through, and made things so that we could be standing up here with a room full of people. I always want to recognize them. Rod McCormick, Caroline Tate, Jeff Redding, Malcolm King. I'm going to miss some people in here, but those are the four that I always go to all the time. That's because they've been influential on me. Through that, with the NEIHR networks, I do want to also recognize when I said that Chelsea and I were aging ourselves, that's where I met Dr. Gable. That's where we started to understand what was happening there. That's where I also met Trina Delormier, Debbie Martin, Lindsay Crowshoe, and basically every single person on this list went through the NEIHR program at some point or connected in with that. This is, the NEIHRs historically have been the grounding and the formation of Indigenous health leaders in this country, and we need to make sure that we are doing this for the next generation. As you see, we're starting to see some people change. Dr. Krista Stalkaya has just taken over. Dr. Norma Shorty will be starting, Dr. Linda Diffie, and I'm missing some people, but Anita Black with the Northwest Territories, and Sephora is with Nunavut. With the National Gathering of Graduate Students, it's the place, it's one of our big things that we do with the NEIHRs. With the Saskatchewan NEIHR, we pay for and treat our students as well as we can to go there. 10 students, it goes across the country. But it's like this place. That's the place where you build relationships. You can talk freely in a place, and you don't have to worry about what others are going to, that you're the only person in the room. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That's what the NEIHRs are trying to do. They're trying to create a space so that we're not the only Indigenous voice in the room, or we're not the only Indigenous, the individual working with Indigenous communities in a specific way. Because I also want to recognize that we have allies or accomplices in this room. I go accomplices. Who are working with us. Dr. Stacy Lovo, Dr. Colleen Dell, who was my first PhD. She taught me my first PhD class, and she's like, I can't believe you're doing a PhD. I think I almost failed her class, to be honest with you. Now I'm up here making fun of you. How the tides have turned. But this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build these relationships. We're trying to bring people together. With the SAS NEIHR, we try and facilitate research. We don't do research, we facilitate research. I think there's a big misconception of what we try and do, that we run research through the NEIHR. We don't run research, we support research in our communities. And we really try and support students. We try and support community partnership grants, knowledge mobilization activities. With the SAS NEIHR, we take a distinctions-based approach. We have the Métis data principles that are housed here that we do training with, which we're trying to do 3 times next year, and so forth. As we look at here, these are some of the pieces with the funding. We have funding up to $15,000. If you want to bring community together and we want to look at, okay, is this a priority? Apply to the NEIHR, bring this, and we'll help you bring individuals together to start planning for the next round of grants. Because a lot of times with new researchers, it's difficult to understand, okay, who are the partners that I need to have in place? How do I get these letters in place? How do I get the community engagement piece moving forward? And then at the end, we always find out that with research, researchers never think of knowledge mobilization properly. And I will say that openly. We never think of it properly because we always think about how do we get the data and the research, but not how do we communicate it back into the communities, and we always under budget ourselves. So this is where the NEIHRs are coming in to support knowledge mobilization for these activities, because the communities want to change things as it comes through as well. One of the other things that we are trying to do, this is something that the NEIHRs have been looking at. You may have seen this, but many of you may have been impacted within some of these pieces with the wildfires. We were successful, and it started with Dr. Lovo with a phone call to me, to a phone call, to another phone call, and within 3 weeks, after 3 months of talking, 3 weeks to write a grant, we were able to get the wildfire funding. This funding is to be working with communities in Saskatchewan on the impacts of evacuations of what happened in 2025. Please check out our websites, or the NEIHR website, to see if your community or if your community partners are interested in this. We have up to $20,000 to do rapid response research, meaning small projects quickly, because we want to get everything into a report for May to inform policy for next year on what is going to happen to make sure everything is in place. So that's what we're looking at, and so with this. And this is where rapid response research, but I can talk to you about this on another time. You can always come up and talk to me, because I want to get into the conversation up here with individuals. And here's the QR code. So I'm gonna, with the National Coordination Center, and I do want to also have Tara Erb stand up. Yeah, because you're the only one who didn't stand up yet. I forgot about you, and I can't forget about you or else you're going to get mad at me. So Tara is now the coordinator for the National Coordinating Center. So if you're ever looking for anything for the NEIHR NCC, Tara is the person to talk to. And I want to make sure, and I want to also say, Fleur, without you, I wouldn't be up here. There's no way I could do any of this. Like, I just want to make sure that you understand this. Fleur also was coordinating the NCC and the SAS NEIHR with me for about 1.5 to 2 years. O'Brien was there for a little bit when Chelsea was helping, but Fleur, you've been the main point the whole time, so I want to recognize the hard work that you do behind the scenes all the time, keeping us afloat, so thank you. So with that, I'm done. We're good now. But now I'd like to have our panelists here. We have 3 panelists who work with the NEIHR, either PI or collaborate with the NEIHR, and have received grants with the NEIHR. The first person who I'm going to invite up is somebody who I look up to, have learned a lot from. She has a very quiet demeanor, but one that's very powerful in the way she speaks and the way she works with community. Dr. Heather Folds is a principal investigator with the Saskatchewan NEIHR, one of the more recent CRCs, Canada Research Chairs with CIHR here on campus that was just awarded, so that's a huge thing. So in holistic health and well-being through physical activity for Indigenous peoples. So I'm going to invite Dr. Folds up here to give a little presentation about what she's been working on. And she may ask you to do something, not me, because I already know I can't do it.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. Heather Folds, Dishinakashin, Métis NEIHR. I grew up in BC, but my Métis community is a couple hours west on the North Saskatchewan. So Bobby asked us to talk about knowledge translation or knowledge mobilization in this session, and I've been working on a theater project, so I will maybe tell a bit of the story of how that, and we'll show a few. I only have 5 minutes because we got to get to the video. So when I came here, my research is quite broad. I do a lot of different things. I was trained in cardiovascular physiology, and I had a heart and stroke CIHR chair, which ended this past June. So I was looking at how culture and community and identity are important for preventing heart disease of Indigenous people, and I work with Métis communities. And so I work with, for this project, Saskatoon Métis Local 126, which is here in Saskatoon, and a lot of students. So this project has a lot of youth. And so before we started measuring health and measuring culture and trying to find where the intersections are, kind of went like, how do we measure culture and community and identity? So we started with sharing stories and conversations, and is this gonna work for the, okay. And photos. So I had participants, so 75% of them were youth, so young, lots of students. And they talked about their experiences with identity and the challenges of balancing, how do I balance the Métis and the First Nations ancestry and culture? Am I welcome in places like Gordon Oaks, or is that a First Nations place? How do I need to talk when I'm in a space with white people? How do I talk on the phone if people don't know that I'm Indigenous? And those kind of balancing the identity duality and their history. A lot of them, their families had hid their identity for a number of generations to stay safe, my family included, so we didn't publicly identify as Indigenous until more recently. They talked about the food that, we may not have identified, but those recipes have been in our family, and when I'm practicing, this is my family that we're connecting through food. They talked about getting out on the land and needing to be outside to recharge batteries, mental well-being, grounding, and then that reflection of what do I want to put forward? What do I want the next generation to know? What do I want to pass on? And those important conscious thinking about transmitting and preserving and passing on the culture. And so we shared these stories, and yes, now we have the quantitative study measuring health and finding that people who know that they feel better when they're on the land have a lot better health than those who don't spend that they, lots of findings we're getting into, but the stories were so powerful. And one of my other main research, my research chair focusing on physical activity, I'm in the College of Kinesiology. I work a lot with Métis dancing. I think Bobby was worried I was going to have you all jigging up here. So kind of putting culture into practice. So I had a conversation and ran into the right people at the right time, and they started talking about theater as a way of sharing those stories back to community. And so I used to dance with Bruce Sinclair, who's a well-known storyteller and theater artist, writer, director in town. And so we went for tea, and I said, do you want to write a play to share research findings? And okay. So this past year, they've been working on, I had a Truth in Action from SCHRF to get started, and some near knowledge translation funding for them to do a first round of the play of get a production together. And so at our research engagement days in October, we were able to have the first kind of big public performance of this production and share their knowledge. And I'm going to show you one scene, one shorter scene. So there were a number of different scenes around different topics. This particular one, I'm not showing the whole lead up to this, but they're SUNTEP students getting together, which I had many SUNTEP students share their stories.
I knew I had this research project, so I started, scrolling, what's the topic? And then it hit me. Mm-hmm. Here it is.
Was she the maid?
No. Okay, here's the topic. It's the cross-intersectional, binary, dialectically diversificationalized modality of indigenous languages. Yeah, that's what it was. So what I did, I started swiping on my phone, up and down this time. And
Those are $5 words. Well, they used to be. Now they're about $100 a word.
Well, that's how I roll. It's no big deal. So what I was doing, swiping up and down, and I was looking for all the websites, that had this stuff on it I couldn't understand. Then I'd look on there, tap on it. Indigenous languages. And then what I did, I turned the TV on, and I was looking through all the channels, trying to see which channels had wording on there I didn't quite understand. Boop, check out the channel, they're talking this language. Boop, check out the other channel, same thing, same language. Indigenous languages.
You found Indigenous language television on cable TV?
Well, no, I decided to do a more comprehensive analytic review on the topic. So I turned on the radio. So then I was going through all the radio stations, and I was listening. Sure enough, there's one with different language. Listen to that language. Yeah, that's not. Then I went to another station. No, sure enough,
what
different language.
Yeah,
what's
Indigenous language. I am telling you, these languages and this language, so beautiful.
What?
French! Scott, you may single-handedly be the biggest embarrassment in the history of this program!
It's colonial hotel and colonial tongues. Oh, wait a second. Does it midchiff have French in it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I happen
buddy.
I happen to be a mature student. Well, I'm kind of immature, but I just listened to midchiff when I was small. Yep. But my mom didn't teach it to me. Do you know why? Because she didn't want me to be bullied. So there.
Okay. Cool, man.
Do you think that's part of what makes you Métis, though?
Oh, you know what it is? Even if we don't know the language, well, we can try, but you're Métis, it's in your heart. That's what we gotta remember, it's in our heart.
It's in my heart. And I needed to hear that today, Bruce, because I realized something this morning, as you were yammering about whatever that was. In 4 generations of my family, ending in me, not one of them has spoken Michif. I don't know who the last person was in my family who spoke Michif. And I don't know how to jig, but I don't think I would have been a dancer anyway, no matter who I was. But I needed to hear that today, Bruce, because I am no less a Métis just because I don't speak the language and just because I don't know how to dance. And also, we're late for class.
Even just the theater artists have talked about, I thought I was the only one who felt this way, like I didn't fit. So I think this is part of sharing that idea and those concepts broadly. And so this knowledge mobilization that wasn't planned in my grant, but it's been, I think, a big important outcome that we've moved into. So thank you.
Thanks, Heather, and thank you for not making me dance. I had an arts class back. I'm a SUNTEP student as well, and we had to do an acting class. I was behind the scenes. I painted things, just black. That's all I was allowed to do. I couldn't even do art. They wouldn't let me do that. That's fun. That was another thing in other classes. And I'll tell you another story about Dr. Caroline Tate and how the great work she helped me do my PhD back in the day. So if any students get mad at me, that's where you go on how that works. Next, I want to invite Dr. Jordan Woodsworth, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, PhD, Director of Northern Engagement and Community Outreach, Western College of Veterinary Medicine, University of Saskatchewan. She's one of the co-investigators with the SaskNEIHR, identifies as a settler ally within these spaces, but does a lot of work with animals, dogs in particular, and it's a huge piece of what we're doing, and especially in the north and everything else. So I'd like to invite her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm gonna try and stick to my time. I'm really, really bad at that because I like to talk, but I'm gonna put my timer on because I set it for this specific reason, and then it'll give me a warning when I'm getting close. So like Bobby said, I'm a veterinarian. I'm the Director of Northern Engagement and Community Outreach at the WCVM here on campus. And I got involved in the NEIHR, I guess, in a few different ways, but what I'm going to talk about today is a knowledge translation project that was funded by the NEIHR, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how it has included youth voices in a number of ways. So just some background about this project. The project that is represented at our booth at the back and that I'm going to talk about today is the Atim Maskigi, or Dog Medicine Project. And this was a product of my PhD research that was a community-oriented project with the folks in the Laronge, Arange, and Lac La Ronge Indian Band tri-community area. And the project was to basically look at what is the dog-human relationship like, and how are dogs cared for and managed in places that don't have regular access to animal health and welfare services, which is a huge part of our province and a huge part of our country. And it was really, kind of came about as a result of some of the relationships that I had built with folks in the area because of doing clinics in the area for some years before we started. And it was a really enjoyable project because the folks in the community were in the driver's seat, and so they were really, it was a patient-oriented project funded by a skipper and SHERF, and the whole goal was to have it be responsive to community priorities, community needs. Oh, that's mine, thanks. That was to remind me of my parking, but I already took care of it. And so, as part of that, we were really interested in hearing from youth because, of course, youth and dogs, they kind of get each other. And in a lot of northern communities where dogs tend to be hanging out in the community, sometimes roaming around, kids have contact with them that's different from the contact that adults have. And so we wanted to capture that. So as we were kind of going through, this is just a model that represents some of our findings. What kind of came out of all of this was that the dog-human relationship has multiple dimensions, and our elders gave us the permission to use the medicine wheel as part of this diagram, part of this model. And so there are these multiple different domains, and what happens at the dog-human interface really depends upon whether the needs of dogs and people in those relationships are being met, whether management of that interface and the relationship between dogs and people is being adequately resourced, and then what's happening, on a systemic level. How does colonialism feature and factor into those relationships between dogs and people and some of the things that we see? And so some really fascinating outcomes, and again, youth perspectives were really critical here. We talked to children at the local school on the First Nation, and we also had a number of young adult participants who were part of the project. And so I thought it was really interesting just to capture some of the things that youth had said. So I mentioned the four-dimensional representation of the dog-human relationship, and so when we think about the physical health of a relationship between dogs and people, we heard a lot from kids that, sometimes, people have bad interactions and they develop fear of dogs in communities, but there's also things like this. So this participant said, dogs are important because they protect us from junks and people. They're important because they're part of our family. They also keep our neighborhood safe. They keep kids safe from dogs and from people. And I think sometimes we focus so much on the negative things that happen between dogs and people. I was just in a meeting with a tribal council the other day about a death that had happened in one of their communities because of a dog attack, and it was an adult woman. And there was a lot of talk about these negative interactions, but there was also a lot of talk about why dogs are important in community. And so we wanted to be able to illustrate that in this project. So another youth said, he even saved my little sister this summer. She was swimming in the water uptown and started to choke. My dog seen her and he just started swimming really fast. No matter what, your dogs will save you, no matter if they're big or small. And being a small dog owner, I really feel that. I think it's critical to understand that dogs are really important to kids, not only mental well-being, but their physical well-being, their safety, and all of those things. And so we can foster those things, right? We can use those as jumping off points for figuring out what programs need to be put in place so that the strength in those relationships can really be emphasized. And from an emotional health standpoint, this participant said, I'm not worried about any dog. If they're well trained, you don't have much to worry about. If everyone just trained their dogs properly and treated them like family instead of a wild animal, there wouldn't be a problem. And so we hear this from adults too, but I think the kids really get it, usually better and more succinctly than adults ever can, right? They just get right to the heart of the matter and tell us what's going on and what needs to be put in place to help. And so as far as knowledge translation goes, one of the things that was really important to our community-based research team was figuring out a way to make the findings of this project accessible. Because of course, most folks in the community aren't gonna read a paper that we put in a journal, and they're not coming to my defense. And so things like that. So one of our community-based team members suggested, we've got a lot of really talented artists in La Ronge, many of whom are young adults. Could we use our research grant to commission artworks to translate some of our findings? And so because of the flexibility of Skipper and Scherf, we were able to do that. And so in the summer of 2023, we had a local gallery launch in the La Ronge area where we shared the artworks, and they were up for a couple of months in town. We had a nice event where we had our elders and a lot of our participants and many of our team members there. And folks were able to come and check out the artworks and meet the artists and talk to our team about the project and really just, discuss how important dogs are and how important that relationship is in the community. And then we were really, as part of that, we were really fortunate. One of the artists suggested, hey, maybe this would be of interest to the Organization of Saskatchewan Arts Councils. And she had connections with them, and it turned out that they were actually very interested in taking the gallery on as a touring exhibition. So we were really lucky that NEIHR said, we'll give you some knowledge translation money for this. So we were able to host this really beautiful event at Wanuskewin in January of 2024. And we were able to get the majority of our team members, including our elders, down to Saskatoon for the event and to celebrate the launch of this really important tour, traveling tour of these artworks to share those stories about the importance and the beauty of the relationships between dogs and people in northern communities, which so often get misrepresented as something dangerous and something undesirable. And I'm looking at Holly because we were just talking about this in a student's grad committee meeting the other day about how really emphasizing those strengths is so critical, and that we need to get away from the deficit-based language that we often have surrounding dogs and kids. So I wanted to feature just a couple of the young artists who were involved in the project, and the first one is Sammy Kopek. So these are the two pieces that she submitted to the project, to the gallery. And the one on the right is called Charlie Boy, and it's representative of a dog that was part of her family for many years. And she talks about how Charlie used to eat grass and dandelions all the time, so that's part of why the grass and dandelions are in his silhouette, but he also passed away, and so now he's back, in close relationship with Mother Earth, and so that was a really beautiful way for her to represent that and how important he was to her family. And then the second picture is a puppy with some butterflies, and that was based on a dream that she had about a puppy with a butterfly on its nose, and that was really representative to her of kind of the innocence and the beauty and the silliness, I guess, of puppies and some of the reasons why we all love them. There's a bit of audio here, but I think I'm gonna skip it just for time.
In such a northern
kidding.
community, like funding and accessibility to vets is even a hard thing. Even as a pet owner, like the closest vet is 2 hours away. Like it's hard to get care for your animals, and if that animal doesn't have an owner, it's obviously not going to get the care that it needs.
So the piece about accessibility of services to support the dog-human relationship and support that human-animal bond and sustain it is something that I think, some people know anecdotally, but don't necessarily get how important and impactful that can be in both, good ways, bad ways, all the ways for folks who live in northern communities. This is Jade Roberts, and she presented on this with me at the October meeting, and her piece is called Ruby. It is demonstrating Ruby, who is a family dog of theirs, who again came through the Humane Society in L'Orange, and it uses Jade's kind of woodland style, artist style, and it's all digital artwork, and also shows some of the landscapes in L'Orange. And so Jade is a former student here. She's a teacher by trade, and she lives in Saskatoon as a full-time artist now, but really was very excited to be part of the project and has been such a great collaborator. Prints of Ruby are available at the back if you want a little piece of art or if you're looking for a holiday gift for someone you love. And that fundraising, like Bobby indicated earlier, that goes back to the community, goes back to L'Orange to help us care for animals in the tri-community area. And our third young artist is Abigail Clark, and she goes by Makwa Isquesis, and she is a really phenomenal and internationally sought-after artist. She uses a lot of natural elements, whether it's hide or hair or birch bark, as in this case, to make her wearable items. She makes a lot of moccasins. She makes mitts, different things. And her artwork here is a couple of sled dogs on a pair of earrings. She talks a lot about how her northern upbringing on her family's trapline really informs her artwork and the way that she uses natural elements to express gratitude for her northern upbringing and her woodland Cree heritage. And so, like I mentioned, the tour, or the gallery is on tour. It's been going across the province for the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to do so for the next two. And I think, for me, the thing that's so exciting about this is that OSAC always has education guides involved in all of their exhibitions. And these were, the pieces in the education guide were created by veterinary students, so again, involving youth in our project. And these are meant to be curriculum aligned, so teachers can bring their students to the gallery to see the tour and have them do some activities to achieve some outcomes for whatever the particular subject area might be. And so we've just been so grateful that we've had that collaboration with OSAC, and it's been cool to see how using art as a knowledge translation tool has continued to be a part of some of what's being done in our unit at the university with one of my grad students, Catherine, here. Yeah, I'm excited to answer any questions that folks might have, so thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jordan. And thanks for bringing the question parts up. We are going to have questions afterwards, so that's okay. We'll ask here. I just forgot to read. Fleur had it written down, and I just forgot to read it. I also want to recognize Dr. Christina Weiss for Skipper, if she can stand up and also wave her hand. Skipper has done a lot of great work, and Jed as well. Hey, there we go. They've done a lot of really great work in the communities here with their Indigenous stream and the brick and all of that. So I want to recognize that you're also in this room and the idea of building collaborations across spaces. So thank you for coming tonight. Well, we were supposed to have Dr. Swidervich to attend, but Dr. Swidervich, I was going to put a message up that he sent me, but I decided not to because he was sipping basically a Mai Tai in Sydney, Australia right now, because his plane got delayed for 30 minutes and then somehow 3 days. So he's unable to make it for tonight. But we have what I believe one of the strongest voices in health systems delivery in northern Saskatchewan. Dr. Veronica McKinney, who's one of the principal investigators on the Saskatchewan NEIHR. She's Cree Métis medical doctor and the director of Northern, I'm always going to get this wrong, Director of Northern Health Services, see, it's the easiest one to say today, which provides healthcare services to people in 34 communities across the north. Dr. McKinney is an assistant professor in the College of Medicine and teaches and promotes Indigenous health, as well as on many boards and committees at local, provincial, and federal levels. She practices clinical medicine at the Westside Community Clinic in Saskatoon and has provided services as a family practitioner, emergency room physician, nurse, lab tech over a span of 30 years. She believes strongly in her traditional cultural teachings and applies them to her practice of medicine. She's a strong advocate for Indigenous people's health, having witnessed and experienced inequities firsthand. And I can honestly say I've learned, you can come up, don't worry, I'm going to keep feeding you. The amount of work and how much she is pulled from place to place, she always makes time for people. She'll always make time to go for breakfast. Never anything else. That's I can never get her to go for dinner or supper or anything, but always breakfast. So if you ever need to get a hold of her, she likes OEB, Hometown, Scarlet, and she enjoys an omelet. That's all I understand about all of this. But I want to say thank you for coming at the very last minute to help us with it today. So thank you.
Oh boy. Well, these two are hard acts to follow, and you guys are all amazing, so big hand for yourselves. So just starting, Tanse Veronica Nasika San NEIHR. So I've already had this phenomenal introduction, so I won't talk too much there. Just to give you a little thumbnail sketch of where I practice or what I do. So Northern Medical Services is actually almost the northern half of the province, and it's greater than 85% Indigenous population. And over half of those people are First Nations people living on First Nations territories. So we have a lot of jurisdictional issues going on. 50% of our population are kids, are under 20 years of age. So we have a very high population and a growing population, very different than the rest of the province and very different than the rest of the nation. And this is important because when we think about how policies and systems are developed, it's based on the general population. We don't fit into that. So we do have to advocate for sure. There are a number of issues facing children, Indigenous children, whether we're talking in northern Saskatchewan, remote rural communities, or inner city, where I also work. They're very similar, actually, the issues that they're facing. So things like high rates of chronic conditions, whether that's respiratory, whether that's diabetes even in younger and younger children that we're seeing these days, or respiratory infections of all sorts, asthma, those types of things. Often related to things like overcrowded housing, not having good clean air or clean water even. And especially with our forest fires this past summer, we've become far more aware, I mean our communities have been aware of this for a long time, but the environmental issues that predominantly affect people living in northern communities these days is massive. And who's living there? Like I said, Indigenous populations. So disproportionately, we're experiencing that. Kids being displaced from their homes. Mental health concerns are huge. I've been working with Strongest Families Institute, and we're going to do some research and start a project where we are going to be doing some teaching around being able to use cognitive behavioral therapy type techniques to teach kids how to use those even before they show up with mental health disorders, because we all need to know these things. So we're very excited to start that. But what the schools are actually seeing is that kids have been since COVID, suffering a lot more of the anxiety, having a lot more problems actually relating to one another, being able to cope with a variety of different things, for sure. Developmental and learning challenges have been increasing as well. We are also seeing mass amounts of autism in our communities that we just didn't really see before. Hard to know, is that just that we're identifying? Is it, is there something else going on? It's definitely not the vaccines, just so you know. And yes, we have research on that, or the Tylenol, yes. Aceta, Tylenol, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Yeah. There are a lot of barriers to accessing care. It's huge geographic area. Like when we think about northern Saskatchewan, that's almost 3/4 the size of the Yukon Territory. The reality is, how do you get around in all this area? There's winter roads and such, but we really have to fly in a lot of these places. One of our communities was really brilliant and tried to get it wasn't little, a hovercraft to use to get between communities. Unfortunately, they bought it from the Russians, and so they couldn't really figure out how to use it, and it really wasn't a very good piece of equipment. The other challenge is we're seeing changes in the workforce. So we've been very fortunate in that we have physicians that stay with us for many years, actually. But the workforce doesn't want to work full-time anymore, and we do see that there are more and more people that are working part-time with the idea of not having as many local staff. People are doing more itinerant type work as well. So even though they're committed to the community, they're not there all the time. And when you work in primary care teams, which are great, but the reality is you don't see the same person every single time, and that makes it challenging when we're talking about communities that have not had great health care, and you need to build trust and you need to build relationship. There are, like I said, travel burdens for the families when they come down. For instance, one of our studies that we had done was that when the families came down, they're generally down here for about 5 days. Kids can be sent down on their own without any family members whatsoever. And then trying to get back is another big issue, for sure. Where people stay, language, all kinds of different things. There are communities that we have in the north that the kids don't actually start speaking English until they actually have to go to school. So when we think about things like residential schools being things of the past, some of those elements are still there today, where the kids are forced to speak English because many of the teachers are not Indigenous or don't speak the language that the kids speak. Wait times are huge, so even though referrals are made, the kids are having to wait quite a bit longer, and we know the sooner we can get access to care for kids, the faster that they can get on track and actually do better and not have to deal with those problems. So we've done a lot of things to mitigate some of these things, bringing specialists into the communities, actually bringing them in and having them spend time in the communities so they get to know the people and they get to know the kids and they get to know the families. All kinds of different things as well, like mental health things that we're working with the communities on in terms of land-based treatment. So just getting back to land-based teachings from the elders, spending time with the elders and finding ways that we can bring kids in, whether their parents are able to bring them or not. We find ways to make sure that we can do this. That has strength for the kids. We know that the more that people are stronger in their culture, with that, it protects them. It's a protective factor that they have increased health. We are seeing increased violence in communities, and we are aware of adverse childhood events. We know that there are brain changes when kids are exposed to these things. Most of my patients in the inner city here, when I just explain about adverse childhood events, most of them have 10 out of 10, and I would say a lot of the kids that we've seen have 10 out of 10. Does that mean that you're destined for this horrible life? No. The cool thing, and this is my nerdy self, fun fact, our brains are plastic. We can change this. We can make it work. But we just need to be able to help to provide the resources to make that happen. And when you explain that to people and you start to work, they too become very excited and want to make sure that they can do things a bit differently. And there's nothing more incentivizing than having kids to be able to do that. We've actually utilized things like technology. So we've gotten into a lot of this remote technology, remote ultrasounds. Dr. Lovo's been working very hard on things like physiotherapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy for kids. We have kids who suffer with chronic diseases that up until recently we haven't really been able to start to address some of these different things. But when you start to meet with community, there's a lot of innovation there. People have ideas. They know what they need, and they know what will work for them. So just bringing people together to be able to talk about these things and be able to support that is huge. So a lot of our research has been around these different ideas and concepts. I was lucky to work with some of the traditional midwives and people that were looking at getting birthing centers in their communities. And so having some of those traditional ways of approaching health has been monumental for the communities. It's bringing it back. And when you talk to the elders, like many times there's tears in their eyes because they haven't seen this for years and years. Actually, some of them for almost their whole lifetime. And so to be able to support the elders and support the communities to have their ways of being brought back is huge. We have a lot of strengths in our communities. The fact that we have strong cultural identity, and that is really resurging. The kids are hungry for it, and they are demanding it. The close-knit extended families that we have. The language is strong in the north. 65% of our population speak a language other than English as their first language. That's phenomenal. We have schools now where my kids and my nieces and nephews, if they go, they're actually speaking the language. It's amazing. It's awesome. And we know that there's community-driven wellness projects that are occurring that are really quite successful. So we just need to be able to support them. There are incredible strengths in the kids that we're seeing. These kids have gone through all kinds of different stuff and thrived. They've said, screw you, society. We're doing what we're going to do, and we're going to be all the better for it. So the more that we can actually support kids, we're seeing more kids graduating. We're seeing more kids being able to try different things and being exposed to different things. One of the positives with the technology that we've been using is I've been very insistent that we build capacity within our communities. We need to train the people from the communities to be able to use the technology. And I knew that when people get exposed to this, that they will actually want to be able to get more training, and we're going to see people become nurses, doctors, lab techs, whatever they want to do. And we are starting to see that already, where people are wanting to get additional training for different things because now they feel comfortable. They know what this is about. The more we can work collaboratively together, the better it is. Doing skills modules and making the modules more with the communities. So some of the stuff that I was talking about with the school-based training, we work with the schools. And so every school is going to be a bit different. So it takes time. But the other thing that we noticed when we did this is that the teachers need support too, because they're going through a lot of rough times right now as well. So the more we can support the teachers, the better it is. So some of those modules that we have allow the time for the teachers to be able to have some debriefing and some venting and be able to learn some of those skills. But we also help them to figure out how do we be able to use those skills at different times. So something as simple as teaching breathing exercises and having the teacher use those exercises before a test. It's so simple, really, when you think about it. And then different things like having wellness coordinators that are from the community, that speak the language, that work in the schools themselves, and kind of are the go-betweens. We've actually got, in one of the schools, it's been tremendous in what's been happening. It's transformational. And we now have our doctors going directly to the school so that the kids don't have to go someplace else where they don't feel comfortable. We have pediatric teams that are going out to communities, not only the hub areas where the health centers are, but actually out into communities, into the smaller places where the kids are, and sometimes into their family homes as well, if that's what's needed. And we should be doing more of these kinds of things. So those are just a few little samplings of some of the stuff that we've been doing and working really hard on. There's a huge amount of research that we've been doing, and again, very much associated with NEIHR and partnering with a variety of different people. So that idea of networking and finding, okay, if the community is telling me this, where do we go to? Who can I find within the network that we can start to pair and do this? I mean, we've worked on, Carolyn and I have been working on organ transplant, for instance, for a while. So like I said, the cool thing is I get to do a lot of different areas. But the other cool thing is I get to spend a lot of time in the community and get to learn from these amazing kids who are just incredible. The talents that they have, the roundedness of who they are and where they are, and the time I get to spend with them and teaching and learning. But again, as much as I feel like I want to teach and learn, I actually get so much more back from them because they teach me so many more things. And any of the people that we bring up, that we slowly introduce, we build relationship, really at the end of the day, they want to stay too because the learning that we all do is just absolutely incredible. But we do always insist that this has to be owned by the community, that it is the community that directs us, and that when we're done those projects, that all of that is with the community. So in whatever way or capacity that the community wants. So it looks different in every single community. And, like I said, the more that we build that, the stronger that our communities are being. So anyways, that's just a little quick thumbnail sketch of what we've been doing through Northern Medical Services. We are part of the College of Medicine, but we're also with Indigenous Services Canada and the Ministry of Health. And, it's been a really positive experience, and we'll keep pushing. And through that, we're able to broker a lot of the changes that we've been seeing. So thank you.
So thank you to the speakers that are here. I know we're a little behind time, but we're ahead of time in academic time, if that ever makes any sense to anybody. Right now, I want to open up the floor to any speaker, anybody who has a question or comment they would like to ask any of the speakers. Thank you, all three of you, for being up here. I was hoping that was going to lead into somebody else. So anyways, one of the things that's really interesting going across all the work that's going on, I guess one of the things that I would like to ask are how do you engage the youth at the beginning of when you're thinking of research? Like a lot of times when we look at Indigenous research, ethics boards and projects have told us get that sort of the elders together and everything else, and the youth seem to be the afterthought. How do you go within your projects to say, okay, this is where the youth need to be brought in, or how will you engage with that? So anybody can take that going that way. Oh, are we going to do this all day again? This is what happened all day today. The microphones didn't work, so I'm just going to go like this. There.
Okay, hi. I'm very lucky because I have a captured audience. They have to come see me in the clinic and they're stuck there. So and I have corny jokes. So I usually start with the kids, actually. I've never started with the adults ever. Or even when I'm up north, if it's a nice summer day, I'm out on the beach because that's where the kids are and start to talk to them. You have to, first off, we have so many kids, it's hard to avoid them. But, the reality is just taking the time to speak to them. They're human beings, the same as anybody else. And if you treat anybody with respect and honesty and ask those questions or start asking or talking, they'll tell you a whole bunch that, you'll find out things very quickly about what's going on in the community. I think the other thing, too, that I think about that I probably didn't talk about very much, in my my background is that my mom was a very strong advocate as well, but she was very much believed in traditional teachings and traditional parenting and the way that we bring kids up. And our way that we bring kids up is that we all have a hand in how we raise our kids. It doesn't matter whether I'm the parent or not. As soon as I see a kid, I have an obligation to go talk to that kid, to spend time with that kid, to get to know them and to honor them because they are a gift from the spirit world for us. So we all need to look after our Wasasak. We're there for those kids. And so, those kids, that's how it is in our communities. And we're very lucky, I think, in many of the communities because we see that so strongly. I know where Terry's from, Isla Cross, very strong. They do so much for the youth there because that's what we're there for. So it's a really different atmosphere in that way than what it would be, I think, in other places. But you can't avoid talking to kids, and you shouldn't. They're so much fun.
I think I spent a year having conversations before we got started, and then when we got going with the community, we had some people so people sat down 2 youth, 1 adult, sat down together and put the study together. And they made all the decisions. Yes, this question, no this, reword this, change this, add this measure, get rid of this one. And then I go back to them whenever we do something. And so there's always youth plus adults because it's together in the project.
For sure. So, thought, oh no, just kidding, it's on. Yeah, I think with the project that I was talking about here, we are always engaging with kids when we're in communities delivering services because in the case of Isle Lacrosse, the clinic is happening in the school. And so kids are there, they're coming through, they're asking questions, they're coming with their families, whatever. And in La Ronge, same thing. So I think it kind of was a no-brainer that kids were going to be involved in our research in some way. And we were fortunate to have on our research team an absolutely phenomenal teacher who teaches middle years and treats her students like people, but also like family. And so she was such a great resource in that way because she had the trust and the connections and kids wanted to talk to her about these things. And so, and you know, all kids want to talk about their dogs. It's just how it is. So yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer to your question, Bobby, but.
Gotta ask one question before supper. It's the only way we can get to supper. Okay, we got a couple here now. See. Okay.
Yeah. So thanks, all of you. This is great. So having worked with youth for a number of years, I don't so much anymore. But you know, I live right in the communities, and you know, the community close to me is having a lot of things happening with it. And so in research, sometimes I worry that we miss the very hard to reach youth. So the youth that aren't in school, the youth who are in and out of the system, and they're there one day and they're gone the next, and then they're back, and they quickly become disenfranchised very young. And then there can be multiple traumas and comorbidities that they experience, right? And then what happens is that they commonly end up going through the criminal justice system, right? And then they lose that connection to family and community. So and I know Veronica knows a lot about this, but in the work that we're doing, and even to everybody here, you know, we often forget about that group. And even when you work with communities, they're not necessarily connected in with that group of people. You think they would be, but they're not. And the reason they're not is because oftentimes those youth can live in very dangerous houses. There can be gang involvement. Bobby knows a lot about that. And there can be a lot of complex reasons why they may not actually be accessible even to, you know, if we're collecting data or we're you know, doing art-based research and that. So I just kind of want to raise that as how do you think, and how, if you have in the work that you've done, engage that group of people in a way that, because it's not always safe, right? So the community I'm talking about, they have 6 unsolved homicides, right? And so it's not always safe, but yet I feel it's really important that we somehow reach, you know, and I'm not sure that some of the stuff that we're doing nationally in research is actually making any difference for that really high-risk group of youth at all. And I don't know that we're tracking that to know, right?
Yeah, to be honest, you know, I agree with you, and I think, unfortunately, many of the youth, as much as we talk about children's rights, they don't exist. These kids have no right to anything. They are suffering unnecessarily, living high rates of poverty, those types of things. Some of the ways that you can engage, I think, like, is even going to the criminal system in terms of young offenders facilities and things. And I've done that before and connect with kids. You can kind of pick out who might be at high risk because you can see who are the high risk people in the communities. And then also just talking, there's always those aunties and kokums in the communities that know what's going on with who. And if you ask them, they will tell you. We probably should be watching out for little Johnny because his mom is just suffering right now and she's not around. She's the only one for him. So the other thing is, it's trying to bring the community around to support those kids as well. So some of these things, like even nowadays with the programs at the schools for feeding kids, having programs during the summertime, because if there aren't the feeding programs at school, where are the kids going to get support? And even if they're not showing up at school in terms of actually doing the schoolwork, how do we build around them? How do we connect them with somebody? And so a lot of, like, even the mental health, one of the things we've done is, like, a lot of places, they need the parent there. And, you know, you'll hear this all the time. I'm not going to see that kid unless their parents are there. They don't have any parent that's going to be there. So guess what? That teacher might be the person that is the closest to them. If we can do things over the lunch hour, that's okay. We'll do that. If it's that they happen to come in, we'll do that as well too. The other big thing I would say is we really need to make it welcoming for these kids. And you need to be listening with an ear to finding the strengths of that kid. So the other big thing that I find is that often if I can pick out and I say, like, you know, and I'm not just saying things to compliment somebody. You can pick it out like, wow, like, you're really smart. I never really thought about this. You're really thinking about this. I can tell you're doing this. I can tell that. And when you actually point that out, it catches them off guard because they're so used to hearing all the negatives. And in fact, many of the kids almost get very emotional actually around that. So again, we need to build on the strengths of each of the kids and let them know they've got opportunity. There's things that we can do. And it's okay. Maybe your family's just not there yet, but you might be, and that's okay. We can do that. So finding ways to support those kids is critical, but you have to be doing it with an eye to looking for that as well.
I think just one of the things I was hearing you say that I resonated with is figuring out how to provide a place of belonging for kids so that they feel like there's something for them in the environment. And I mean, I don't necessarily have a solution or a good answer for what you were saying as far as how to involve those kids around the margins in research and capture their perspectives. But I think the more that we can, you know, when we go and do clinics, for example, right, when we go into vet clinics in communities, lots of times the kids who are wandering around in the neighborhood come and hang out. And usually we feed them. Sometimes they hang out with us for a day. We have one young man who's been hanging out with us for almost 10 years. He doesn't really have a lot of, you know, supports in the community, deals with some pretty serious mental health things, but he is always at the clinic. Every time we roll into the community, he's there. He helps us unpack. He stays there 10 hours a day, helps us pack up, and then waves at us as we're driving down the road, right? Like, so I think regardless of the research aspect, I think just, you know, being a presence in the community, providing safety, providing belonging to whatever way you can, I think is really important.
I just wanted to say that I worked with youth for 22 years at a high school, and I'm an NEIHR school, and I belong to Flying Dust First Nation. And the thing about working with youth is you have to listen to them. You have to have that confidentiality. You have to know, make them feel like they matter. Right, Sheila? Sheila used to be one of my students. They tell her so. And these two, yeah. You just have to be there. And no bullshitting teenagers. They know when you're BSing. So be real. And yeah, and feed them.
So, with those words, I'm going to stop right there with feed them, because I'm like looking at them and I'm like, okay, got forks. People are ready to go for forks. So I want to say thank you to the panel for coming up here, presenting your work. Again, when we look at knowledge mobilization, it can mean many different things. I think within academic spaces, traditionally, we look at the papers, we look at these presentations. But when we're starting to look at Indigenous research knowledge mobilization, we're beginning to see other ways in which this can be done. We can see the work for the artwork that's being done, the creating of plays that can be done, working with the youth that can happen. Dr. Dell had stilettos and moccasins way back in the day, which is something that I brought in, and also the baking cards that you would talk about and all of that. Knowledge mobilization, we should not be looking in this room to limit ourselves to what we think we need to produce, but rather think about what is the exponential area in which we can actually create change and allow our minds to be free within that sort of spaces. And that's what knowledge mobilization is. And that's what the youth have that many of us don't. They're not constricted now by rules. They're allowed to be free within that. So with that, I just want to again say thank you so much for coming up here and being a part of this. We will, supper's ready? I got a thumbs up? Okay, perfect. I got a thumbs up. So with that, I want to say thank you to this, and then I'll get all the tables going here. So thank you to the panels.